I, Leo Morgan, had been displaced. 1 second, I was in my cramped apartment, microwaving a cup of noodles. The next, I was standing in a strange, opulent office. The man in the mirror was me, but not me. The face was the same, still handsome, but the body was leagues better. Taller built. A flood of alien memories rushed into my brain, and a chill went down my spine. Parallèle univers. The male-to-female ratio was severely skewed. The male birth rate was less than 1%. In this world, men were a protected species, rarer than a California condor. They were expected to wear makeup, speak in soft, breathy tones, and get winded walking up a flight of stairs. And me? I was a regular dude from a normal world, the kind of guy who had just twisted open a stubbornly tight water bottle cap and, out of habit, twisted it shut again. I was screwed. I looked at the impossibly beautiful CEO across from me, the one they called the Ice Queen. She was staring intently at my hand, her eyes a mixture of 1 part shock and 3 parts wanting to devour me whole. I had a sinking feeling my dream of a quiet, easy life was over before it had even begun. Chapter 1, yo. Come here. Her voice was like ice cubes clinking in a glass, jolting me to attention. I lifted my head and met a pair of sharp, almond-shaped eyes that looked ready to kill. Her name was Isabella Frost, the CEO of this multi-billion-dollar global conglomerate. She was also my interviewer. I was just trying to land a 9-to-5, something to pay the bills. I didn't expect to be thrown into the final boss level on my first try. Steeling myself, I walked toward her. The click of her heels on a marble floor sounded like a death knell. Isabella stood up. At 5'9", plus a pair of sky-high stilettos, her presence was overwhelming. She didn't say a word, just slid an exquisite glass jar across the desk toward me. It was a jar of what looked to be insanely expensive caviar. The lid was sealed tight. "Open it," she commanded. I was floored. Is this part of the interview? A strength test? Out of the corner of my eye, I saw another candidate standing in the corner. He had on perfectly applied eyeliner and a glossy pink lip, and he was giving me a contemptuous look as if I just tracked mud all over the carpet. His name was Chaz Sterling. In my new memory, he was a moderately famous beauty guru on Instagram. A few minutes earlier, he'd struggled with the jar, his face turning purple with the effort, but the lid hadn't budged. He'd finally given up, pouting. "Oh, Miss Frost, my poor hands are all red. This mean old jar is bullying me." I'd almost thrown up the lunch I hadn't eaten. Now it was my turn. Under the scrutinizing gaze of Isabella and a boardroom full of female executives, I felt like a lamb at the slaughter. I picked up the jar. It was cool and heavy in my hand. Taking a deep breath, I figured, what the hell? I didn't use any special technique. I just wrapped my palm around the lid, engaged my core, and let the muscles in my arm do the work. Pop! A crisp, clean sound. The lid was off. The office fell into a dead silence. I could actually hear Chaz gasp. I placed the open jar in front of Isabella, trying to keep my voice steady. "Here you go, Miss Frost." Isabella didn't look at the jar. Her gaze was like an X-ray, scanning from my palm to my forearm, then to the chest muscles faintly outlined beneath my dress shirt. Finally, she lifted her eyes to meet mine. Was that a faint blush on her cheeks? "You're hired." She paused, then added, "Starting tomorrow, you'll be my executive assistant." Before I could even process the information, I heard Chaz shriek. "On what grounds? Miss Frost, he's so brutish, so unrefined. Look at him. He doesn't even use hand cream." Isabella's eyes flashed with cold fire. "In my company, when did your opinion ever matter?" Chaz's protest died in his throat, his face a mottled mess of pale and red. Ignoring him completely, Isabella tipped her chin at me. "Be in my office at 8 tomorrow morning." And she looked at me, enunciating each word with purpose. "Take better care of your hands." "Take care of my hands." What does that mean? Is she worried I won't be able to open the next jar? My head swimming with questions, I walked out of that suffocating office. What I didn't know was that from the moment I'd opened that jar, my name and the phrase brute force were already spreading like wildfire throughout the entire building. Chapter 2. On my first day as the executive assistant to the CEO, my main job was to be a decoration. That's right. Isabella set me up at a small desk in the corner of her office with a single directive: stay put. Don't touch anything. I got it. I was basically a corporate mascot. Fine by me. A paycheck for doing nothing. That was the quiet life I'd been dreaming of. I settled in and started using the computer to research the history of this strange new world. Well, if it isn't the company's new strongman. A snide voice cut through the silence. I looked up to see Chaz Sterling sashaying toward me, one hand cocked delicately at his wrist. He had a posse of female colleagues with him, all of whom were staring at me like I was a rare zoo animal. Leo Morgan, is it? I hear you're quite the powerhouse, Chaz said, circling my desk, his expression a mask of disdain. You're new here, so you don't know the rules. Working for Ms. Frost requires a certain image. Just look at you. Your skin is so dry, and your lips are chapped. It's a disgrace. As he spoke, he pulled an assortment of bottles and tubes from his hot pink designer bag. Here, let me show you how it's done. This is a hydrating mist, this is lip balm, and this is a primer. A man has to protect his face, you know. He pitched his voice higher, preparing to apply the products to my face. I frowned, leaning back in my chair to dodge his advance. No, thanks, I said flatly. God, I'd rather be hauling bricks on a construction site. My rejection made Chaz's face tighten, but he only became more aggressive. Oh, don't be shy. Do you have any idea how many women out there would kill for the chance to pamper you? I'm doing you a favor. A man, no matter how handsome, is nothing but a rough, unpolished stone if he doesn't take care of himself. He prattled on, spittle flying from his lips. I was fighting the urge to tell him to get lost when the main office door swung open. Isabella walked in, her secretary trailing behind her. The office instantly fell silent. Chaz, Isabella's voice was devoid of any warmth. Your department is marketing. Who gave you permission to enter my office? Chaz jumped, dropping the bottles, which clattered to the floor. Ms. Frost, I was just checking in on a new guy. Checking in. Isabella walked over to me, glanced at the mess on the floor, then at my supposedly weather-beaten face. Her brow furrowed even deeper. I'll be the one to check in on my assistant. She turned to her secretary. Notify HR. Dock half of Chaz's quarterly bonus. But why, Ms. Frost? Chaz was on the verge of tears. Because you were disturbing him, Isabella said coldly, pointing at me. I froze. I hadn't done a thing. Chaz shot me a venomous look before scrambling out of the office. Silence returned. Isabella sat down in her large executive chair and appeared to be working, but after a few moments, she spoke again. Now, yes. I sat up straight. Come here. Those two words again. Resund, I åkt over. She pulled something out of her drawer and placed it on the desk with a soft thud. It was a very expensive-looking men's skincare set. Use this. Her tone left no room for argument. Miss Frost, I said, use it. She looked up at me. I don't want my assistant looking like he just got back from coal mine. The words were harsh, but was she showing concern for me? No, it's just my imagination. It has to be. And another thing, she added. Stay away from creeps like Chaz. Understood. I took the skincare set, which felt heavier than a lead weight in my hands. Back at my desk, I snuck a glance at Isabella. She was looking down at a file, her long eyelashes casting shadows on her cheeks. Her profile was as perfect as a classical sculpture, except with the tips of her ears just a little bit red. Chapter 3. A few days later, the foie gras incident occurred. That afternoon, Isabella was in a high-level video conference with the board, discussing an overseas acquisition. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. As a corporate mascot, I sat in the corner, trying my best to be invisible. During a short break, Isabella's secretary brought in some refreshments. Among them was a can of ridiculously luxurious foie gras, supposedly flown in from France. One small can was worth several months of my salary. Isabella seemed keen to try it. She picked up the can and gave it an elegant twist. Nothing. She twisted again. Still nothing. For the first time, a crack appeared on her perpetually icy facade. Her secretary rushed forward. Let me, Miss Frost. The secretary was a capable woman, but she used all her strength, her face turning crimson, and the can remained stubbornly sealed. Several other female executives in the room tried their luck, and all of them failed. On the other side of the video call, several of the foreign board members were visibly smirking, enjoying the show. The atmosphere turned incredibly awkward. Finally, all eyes in the room landed on me. I had been zoning out, wondering if I should get tacos or a burger for dinner. Now, Isabella's voice snapped me back to reality. I shot to my feet. Come here. I walked over, resigned to my fate. More than a dozen pairs of eyes in the room, plus the several pairs of blue eyes on the screen, were fixed on me. I felt less like I was opening a can and more like I was defusing a bomb. Isabella handed me the can. Her eyes held a glimmer of something she herself probably didn't recognize. Anticipation? Open it. I took the can. It was cool in my hand. Without much thought, I applied the same amount of force I'd used to open a new jar of pickles. Pop! That damned, satisfyingly crisp sound echoed once again. It was open. The world seemed to hit a mute button. I saw the secretary's jaw drop. The female executive's eyes were wide. The foreign board members on screen looked utterly dumbfounded. As for Isabella, she stared at the can in my hand, then back in my hand, and her throat bobbed as she swallowed. Gee, give it to me. Her voice was unsteady. I handed her the can. As she took it, her fingertips brushed against my hand. Hers were cool. Mine were warm. She flinched back as if she'd received an electric shock. I saw two faint clouds of red blossom on her pale cheeks. To cover her embarrassment, she picked up a small spoon, scooped out some foie gras, and put it in her mouth with feigned composure. Then, as if it had burned her, she quickly took a large gulp of water. For the rest of the meeting, she was completely distracted, and I had earned the burning admiration of every woman in the company. From that day on, I had a new nickname, Leo, the Can Opener. I felt my path to a quiet, simple life getting narrower and narrower. Chapter 4. For the annual company gala, the firm booked the grand ballroom of a five-star hotel. As CEO, Isabella was naturally the center of attention. She wore a stunning black, open-back evening gown, looking as regal and dangerous as a black rose. No one dared to get within 10 feet of her, and I, as her accessory, could only stand behind her holding a glass of champagne, trying to make myself as small as possible. But some people just wouldn't let me be. Isabella, darling, it's been too long. You're looking more radiant than ever. A man in a flashy white suit approached. He was reasonably good-looking, but he oozed a kind of greasy, flamboyant charm. This was Julian Vance, another man from my new memories who made my skin crawl. He'd made a name for himself by being the boy toy of a wealthy older woman. Isabella gave him a curt nod, not bothering to say a word. Undeterred, Julian's gaze shifted to me. "And who is this handsome fellow?" he asked, covering his mouth in a theatrical gesture. My, Isabella, when did you pick up such a masculine little wolf?" I scowled. "You're the wolf. Your whole family is wolves." Isabella's expression turned arctic. "Mr. Vance, watch your words." "Just a joke, darling." Julian simpered, moving closer and tried to clap me on the shoulder. "So, handsome, what do you work? Ever think about coming to work for me? I'll make sure you're very well taken care of." I sidestepped his grimy hand. "Sorry, I'm not interested in him," I said, pointing at Julian before turning to Isabella with a look of utmost sincerity. "My loyalty is to Ms. Frost and Ms. Frost alone." The words made my own skin crawl, but they had the desired effect. The corner of Isabella's mouth twitched upward ever so slightly. Julian's face turned a shade of sickly green. Just then, the ballroom lights dimmed, and a spotlight hit the center of the stage. A woman in a fiery dance outfit began performing a dynamic jazz number to an upbeat track. Her movements were powerful and athletic, a stunning display of grace that immediately captivated the entire room. It was Roxanne Vega, one of the country's top dancers and the special guest for the evening. When she finished, the room erupted in thunderous applause. Roxy took the microphone, her eyes scanning the crowd. "Thank you, everyone. On such a wonderful night, I'd like to invite a gentleman up to the stage for a dance. Any volunteers?" Silence. The men in this room might manage a runway walk, but dancing? That was practically a death sentence. Roxy's gaze swept across the audience before landing on me like she'd discovered a new continent. "The handsome man in the black suit, standing behind Ms. Frost," she said, pointing the microphone at me. "Yes, you. Don't hide. Are you brave enough to come up and play?" I froze. "Lady, I can't dance." I shot a desperate, pleading look at Isabella. For once, she didn't come to my rescue. Instead, she just watched me with an amused expression, as if she was looking forward to the show. Great. You want to see me make a fool of myself, too? With every eye in the room on me, I felt like I was being roasted over an open fire. Julian was practically gloating. Go on, don't disappoint the lovely Ms. Vega. Gritting my teeth, I decided to just go for it. What was the worst that could happen? I strode onto the stage. Roxy smiled and extended her hand. The music started, a fast-paced Latin number. Bracing myself, I drew on the handful of moves I'd picked up at a college party once and followed her lead. To my surprise, this body had incredible coordination. Roxy led me through spins and dips. Our bodies moved in a constant, electrifying rhythm of close and apart. She leaned in close, her breath warm against my ear. Not bad, handsome. You've got some moves. You're too kind, I replied, keeping my eyes forward. As the final note hit, I instinctively wrapped an arm around her waist, pulling her into a dramatic final pose. Roxy fell back into my arms and gave me a playful, provocative wink. The crowd was silent for a beat, then exploded into applause even louder than before. I helped Roxy up, eager to get off the stage, but she held on to me, leaning in to whisper, "You're interesting. Can I get your number?" Before I could answer, I felt an icy glare from the audience, so cold it could have turned me to stone. I looked down and met the furious, frozen gaze of Isabella Frost. She was gripping her champagne flute so tightly I thought it might shatter. My heart sank. Okay, now I've really done it. Chapter 5 after the gala. Isabella summoned me directly to her private suite at the hotel. The moment I was inside, she slammed the door and locked it with a loud thud. My stomach churned. Is this it? Is she going to murder me? She kicked off her heels and paced the plush carpet, the hem of her gown swaying, outlining a breathtaking figure. But the chill emanating from her was colder than a Siberian winter. You and that dancer. You know her well? She finally asked, her voice dripping with ice. Not at all. We just met, I answered honestly. Just met. She let out a cold laugh. If you just met, why would she ask you to dance? If you just met, why were you holding each other so close? That was part of the choreography. If you just met, why did she ask for your number? My eyes widened. How did you know that? Do you have super hearing? I saw it. She stalked toward me, backing me into a corner until my back hit the wall. Her face was inches from mine. I could smell her crisp, clean perfume mingled with a hint of wine. Leo Morgan, you work for me. She jabbed a finger into my chest. You belong to me, and I will not permit you to have any unnecessary contact with other women. Her domineering, corporate overlord speech left me speechless. Ms. Frost, we just have a professional, employer-employee relationship, I reminded her quietly. Not anymore. Suddenly, she rose on her toes and pressed a light, fleeting kiss to my lips. It was soft and cool. I turned to stone. Did the female CEO just force a kiss on me? Isabella's face was as red as a sunset, but her eyes were fiercely determined. From now on, you're my man. I'll multiply your salary by 10. I'll give you a condo downtown and a car. All you have to do is one thing. She paused, her gaze turning possessive. Be mine and mine alone. It finally dawned on me. The women in this world had a very direct way of expressing affection. She was trying to make me her kept man. My male pride, what little I had left, was facing an unprecedented assault. I took a deep breath, looked into her beautiful eyes, and said seriously, Ms. Frost, thank you for the generous offer, but I can't accept. Why not? Isabella's brow furrowed. She clearly hadn't expected to be rejected. In her world, this was a gift of a lifetime. Because I want to make it on my own, I said. I'll earn my own money. I'll get my own house and car someday. I don't want our relationship to be built on a financial transaction. Isabella stared at me, dumbfounded. It was probably the first time any man had ever said such a thing to her. The dominance in her eyes slowly faded, replaced by a complex emotion I couldn't quite decipher. Surprise, admiration, and maybe even a hint of hurt. Then what do you want? She asked softly. I want mutual respect. I held her gaze. If you truly have feelings for me, then please act like a normal person trying to date someone, not like a billionaire buying an asset. A normal person, try to date someone. Isabella murmured the words as if they were from a foreign language she was struggling to comprehend. A long silence filled the room. Just as I thought she was about to explode, she smiled. It was like watching a glacier melt, a winter lotus bloom. All right, she said. Leo Morgan, you are the most extraordinary man I have ever met. I accept your terms. I will pursue you. With that, she turned and walked into the bedroom, leaving me with the sight of her elegant, retreating figure. I leaned against the wall and let out a long, slow breath. I felt like I had just survived a major battle. I had just turned down a billionaire's offer to be her boy toy. I might be the first man in this world to ever do that. It was terrifying, but deep down it also felt pretty damn good. Chapter 6 the next day, for the first time in my life, I received flowers from Suitor. 999 red roses, to be exact. They completely covered my desk in a tacky, yet extravagant display. The card had a single name written in a bold, elegant script. Isabella Frost. The entire office went into a frenzy. Everyone looked at me with an expression that screamed, "What did you do to deserve this?" Chaz Sterling, whose eyes were practically green with envy, deliberately bumped into me as he passed, shooting me a massive eye roll. I stared at the mountain of roses with a growing headache, feeling like a monkey in a cage. When I left work that evening, a fire engine red Ferrari was parked at the curb. The window rolled down to reveal Roxanne Vega's stunning face. "Hey, Strawman, get in. I'm buying you dinner," she said with a whistle. I was about to refuse when I saw Isabella emerge from the building. Her car, a discreetly luxurious Bentley, was parked directly behind the Ferrari. The two women's eyes met, and sparks flew. A war without weapons had just begun. "Ms. Vega, what a coincidence," Isabella said, her voice frosty. "It is, isn't it, Miss Frost?" Roxy replied, her smile dazzling. "I'm here to pick up my dance partner for dinner. Care to join us?" "No, thank you," Isabella said, walking to my side. Her tone was absolute. "Leo, get in my car." Caught between two powerful women, my head started to spin. This is a three-ring circus. As I stood there, torn, a voice as gentle as a babbling brook sounded behind me. "Lao." I turned to see someone I never expected. A girl in a simple white dress, with an aura as serene as the moon, was standing a short distance away, looking at me with uncertainty. She was holding a cello case. It was Luna Reed. In my inherited memories, she was the star of a nation's top conservatory. A brilliant cellist, she had stunned the world with her performance of a Bach cello suite, and was known as the ethereal angel. What was she doing here? "It really is you." Luna's eyes lit up when I turned, and she walked toward me. I saw the video from the gala. "Your dancing was incredible," she said shyly. "I was just passing by and thought I'd take a chance. I can't believe I actually ran into you." Her voice was so soft and calming it felt like all the noise of the city had faded away. The silent battle between Isabella and Roxy seemed to pause as they both turned to scrutinize this new, unexpected rival. "And you are?" Roxy asked, raising an eyebrow. My name is Luna. I'm a friend of Leo's," Luna said quietly. Isabella's gaze grew even colder. I felt the temperature around me drop below freezing. "Leo," Luna said, pulling a small, elegant box from her bag. "I made some lavender shortbread. I wasn't sure if you'd like it." I looked at the box of cookies, then at the two luxury cars and the women staring daggers from inside them. I made a decision. "Thank you so much, Luna. I'm actually starving," I said, taking the box and giving her a grateful smile. "Let's go find a place to sit down." Then I turned to Isabella and Roxy and said politely, "Miss Frost, Ms. Vega, I'm so sorry, but I have plans with a friend. If you'll excuse me." Without a second glance, I led a bewildered Luna away from the scene, feeling the murderous glares of the two women burning into my back. I knew this would infuriate them, but compared to getting into either of those cars, I'd much rather have cookies with the gentle, angelic cellist. At least this way, I wouldn't get indigestion. Chapter 7 Luna and I found a quiet cafe near the office. Her lavender shortbread was perfectly sweet and melted in my mouth, far better than the fancy pastries of the hotel. We talked for hours about music, art, life. Talking with her was effortless. She was like a clear spring, washing away all the stress and noise of the world. "Actually, there was a reason I came looking for you today," Luna said toward the end of our conversation, a blush coloring her cheeks. "I wanted to ask for your help." "Sure, what is it?" I have a very important solo recital next week, but my percussionist suddenly injured his wrist. I've been looking for a replacement, but everyone I found just doesn't have the right sense of rhythm. It's too weak." She looked at me with hopeful eyes. "I saw your dancing. Your rhythm is incredible, so full of power. I was wondering, would you be willing to be my accompanist?" I was stunned. Me? Play the drums? I'd never even touched a drum kit in my life. "But I don't know how." "It's okay, I can teach you," Luna said quickly. "The piece isn't that difficult. With your natural talent, you'll pick it up in no time." Looking into her clear, pleading eyes, I found it impossible to say no. "All right, I'll give it a shot," I heard myself say. From that day on, I spent every evening after work at Luna's private music studio. I had to admit this body's natural aptitude was astounding. In just 3 days, I had mastered the basic rhythms and techniques. The look in Luna's eyes transformed from hopeful to amazed, and finally to unabashed admiration. "Leo, you're a genius," she exclaimed more than once. I just smiled. I wasn't a genius. I was just a normal guy. Just as I was getting lost in the world of music, temporarily forgetting the drama with the other women, trouble came looking for me. Chaz Sterling and Julian Vance, those two clowns, had somehow teamed up. They believed I had stolen their spotlight and threatened their livelihood. And so, they concocted a vicious little plan. They paid off a paparazzi photographer to follow me 24/7. He got photos of me entering and leaving Luna's private studio every night. He got photos of me working out with Roxy at the gym. And, of course, he had photos of Isabella's rose delivery and me getting into her car for work. A massive smear campaign was about to be unleashed upon me, and I had no idea. Chapter 8, the day before Luna's recital, an article titled, "Shocking Exclusive. Rising star Leo Morgan exposed as a 3-timing cheat, juggling Ice Queen CEO, fiery dance diva, and ethereal arts angel," went viral. The post was filled with photos. Me receiving Isabella's roses, Roxy picking me up in her Ferrari, and me entering Luna's private residence. It was her studio, late at night. The accompanying text, full of malicious innuendo, painted me as a manipulative, gold-digging monster who preyed on wealthy women. The public reaction was immediate and explosive. The hashtags Leo Morgan scumbag, hashtag Frost Vega Reed, and hashtag toxic masculinity shot to the top of the trending charts on Twitter. My phone blew up. The company's phone lines were jammed. An avalanche of hate and curses flooded my social media. Disgusting. He thinks he can do whatever he wants just because he's a man. And I thought he was different. Turns out he's just another piece of trash chasing money. How come Ms. Frost, Roxy, and Luna fall for a guy like this? Are they blind? Chaz Sterling and Julian Vance were the first to jump on the bandwagon, feigning righteousness. Chaz posted on Instagram, "I knew from the start he was bad news. All brawn and a black heart. My heart goes out to the 3 amazing women he deceived." Julian's performance was even more nauseating. He went on a live stream, weeping into the camera. "I tried to warn Isabella. I told her you can't trust a stray like him, but she wouldn't listen. Solby. And now look what's happened." The two trolls' antics only fanned the flames. Isabella's company stock took a nosedive. Luna's recital was facing calls for a boycott. I had become public enemy number 1. The atmosphere in Isabella's office was grim. The head of PR was sweating bullets. "Ms. Frost, the public opinion is overwhelmingly negative. We have to cut ties with Leo immediately. We can release a statement saying he was a temporary contractor and that his personal actions have nothing to do with the company." "No," Isabella shot back without a moment's hesitation, her voice firm as steel. "But Ms. Frost, if we don't act now, the company's reputation will be ruined." I said no. Isabella slammed her hand on the desk, her eyes as sharp as daggers. "I believe him. Someone is pulling the strings behind the scenes." She looked at me, her gaze holding not a shred of doubt, only complete and utter trust. "Now, tell me what happened." Looking at her, a wave of warmth washed over me. At a time when the whole world wanted to bury me, she was the only one willing to believe in me. I took a deep breath and told her everything about my rehearsals with Luna and how Roxy was just a friend. So, the photos were all taken out of context and edited to create a false narrative, I concluded. It was Chaz and Julian, Isabella said, a dangerous glint in her eye. They dare to touch my people. They must have a death wish. She immediately gave an order to her PR head. Go, investigate them. Dig up every piece of dirt you can find on those two and the photographer they hired. I want them ruined. I want them completely and utterly finished. The PR head scrambled out of the room to carry out her orders. Only Isabella and I remained. I'm sorry, I said quietly. I drag you into this. Don't be ridiculous. Isabella walked over to me and for the first time reached out and gently straightened my messy collar. You're not fighting this alone. Her voice was impossibly soft. Tomorrow, Luna's recital will go on as scheduled. She looked at me, a wild, determined light dancing in her eyes. I'm going to show the entire world just how exceptional the man I, Isabella Frost, have chosen truly is. We're going to fight back, and we are going to win. Chapter 9. On the night of the recital, the venue was swarmed by reporters and protesters. They held up signs that read, Leo Morgan get out, and boycott predators, blocking the entire entrance. Backstage, Luna was pale, her hands shaking. Leo, maybe we should just cancel, she said, her voice trembling. I don't want you to get harassed even more because of me. I took her cold hands in mine and looked at her steadily. No, this is your dream. You can't give up on it because of a few pathetic haters. Trust me, I said. Everything is going to be all right. My calmness seemed to give her a bit of strength. She nodded. Just then, the backstage door opened and Roxy strode in, dressed in a sleek, powerful-looking outfit. Well, are the two lovebirds having a heart-to-heart? She teased, but there was no malice in her eyes. Need me to go out there and clear out those flies for you? What are you doing here? I asked, surprised. My friend is getting bullied. You think I just stand by? She clapped me on the shoulder. Don't worry. I've already mobilized my fan club. Counter-messaging, damage control. We're professionals at this. She then turned to Luna. Don't be scared. Angel face. Tonight, we're going to give them all a big surprise. Roxy's presence was like a shot of adrenaline, lifting the heavy mood in the room. At 8 o'clock sharp, the concert began. Luna and I walked onto the stage, facing a barrage of boos and camera flashes. She sat down at her cello, took a deep breath, and drew her bow across the strings. The first note, a clear, resonant tone, cut through the noise in the auditorium like a sword. The entire hall fell silent. I was sitting behind the drum kit. Watching her profile, I followed the melody of her cello and brought my sticks down on the drum's dot. Boom! The steady, powerful beat merged perfectly with the soul of the cello. We were playing an intense, modern piece full of fury and defiance. The cello was a charging army. The drums were the thunder of war. Everyone in the audience was mesmerized by our performance. They forgot to boo. They forgot to take pictures. They just stared, transfixed, at the two figures on stage. One still, one in motion, one gracefully melodic, one powerfully rhythmic. So this was the truth behind their late-night trysts. They were creating art. Chapter 10, when the final note faded, the auditorium was silent for a full 10 seconds. Then, a tidal wave of applause erupted from every corner of the hall. The protesters who had been shouting insults just moments before were now red-faced, clapping furiously. Luna stood up, and together we took a deep bow. At that moment, the large screen behind the stage flickered to life. Isabella appeared, dressed in a sharp white pantsuit. Good evening, members of the press and honored guests. Her voice, amplified through the speakers, carried clearly throughout the venue. I know that besides the wonderful music, many of you came here tonight because you're interested in the recent rumors about Mr. Leo Morgan. As Mr. Morgan's suitor, and as his employer, I feel it is my duty to clarify a few things. As she finished speaking, the image on the screen changed. It was high-definition security footage. In the video, Chaz Sterling and Julian Vance were furtively making a deal with a man in a baseball cap. These pictures are explosive, right? You publish these, and I guarantee you'll be set for life. Remember, you have to write that Leo is a manipulative scumbag. The filthier, the better. The ugly, conniving expressions on their faces were captured in perfect clarity. The audience gasped. It was a setup. Those two are pure evil. The video continued. A montage of Chaz's scandals began to play. Evidence of him scamming his followers, passing off cheap cosmetics as luxury brands. Then it was Julian's turn. Videos and text messages, heavily censored, but still damning, prove he was not only kept by one wealthy woman, but was also involved with several others. In that moment, Chaz and Julian were metaphorically stripped naked for the world to see. Their social execution was swift and absolute. Isabella's voice returned, laced with steel. In this world, there is often jealousy and malice directed toward exceptional men. But true brilliance can never be overshadowed by lies. Leo earned my respect through his own merit. He earned Ms. Vega's friendship and Ms. Reed's trust through his character. He is the man that I, Isabella Frost, have set my sights on. Anyone who tries to harm him is making an enemy of me. Her powerful declaration sent another wave of excitement through the crowd. The screen's final image was a photo of me, Luna, and Roxy. It was one Roxy had insisted we take backstage earlier. In it, Roxy was grinning, Luna was smiling gently, and I was standing between them with a look of helpless resignation, but my eyes were clear. Hashtag Leo Morgan vindicated. Hashtag Isabella declares war. Hashtag Justice for Leo. New hashtags went viral, sweeping across the internet like a wildfire. My name was cleared, and I was more famous than ever before. Chapter 11. After the concert, backstage. Isabella, Roxy, and Luna, three stunningly beautiful women, each with her own unique style, had me surrounded. Leo, are you okay? Luna asked first, her eyes full of concern and guilt. I'm Fine. I should be the one apologizing. I almost ruined your recital. I reassured her. Not bad. Hero, Roxy said, nudging me with her elbow. How does it feel? Pretty satisfying, right? I gave a wry smile. Satisfying? I just want to be a normal person. Isabella said nothing, simply watching me. Once the others had finished, she stepped forward and, right in front of them, wrapped her arms around me. It was a light, but incredibly warm hug. You went through a lot, she whispered in my ear. My body tensed. The other two pairs of eyes in the room instantly became laser sharp. The tense, confrontational atmosphere was back. I quickly broke away from her hug and cleared my throat. Well, it's getting late. I should take Luna home. I'll drive you. I'll drive you. Isabella and Roxy spoke at the exact same time. I sighed. In the end, I insisted on calling a rideshare to take Luna back to her dorm first. Then, I got another one for myself. I didn't get in anyone's car. No way was I going to risk ending up on the news again tomorrow. Back in my small apartment, I collapsed onto my bed, completely exhausted. The last 24 hours had been more intense than the last 30 years of my previous life combined. Just as I was about to drift off to sleep, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. Now, is it you? It's Hannah. I saw you on TV. Hannah? I searched the name in my mind. Instantly, a memory belonging to the original owner of this body, one that had been buried deep in his heart, surfaced. Hannah Collins, his childhood neighbor, the girl next door, the one who had been like a beacon of light through his entire childhood. Her family had moved away, and they'd lost touch. She was the only soft spot in the original Leo's heart. I stared at the text message, a whirlwind of complex emotions stirring inside me. It seemed I just put out one fire, only to find another one starting. Chapter 12. The next morning, for the first time ever, I was late for work. I was mentally and physically drained from the ordeal. I walked into the office with dark circles under my eyes, only to find that Isabella had arrived even later than me. A moment later, she walked in, also sporting faint dark circles. Our eyes met, and the air felt a little awkward. Rough night? She asked, breaking the silence. Yeah, something like that. I mumbled. She didn't press further, simply placing a file on my desk. Chaz and Julian have been blacklisted from the entire industry. I'm also investigating the people who were backing them. Also, this is your new employment contract. And these are the keys to your new condo. And this is for the car. She pushed a set of keys across the desk to me. This isn't a sponsorship, she said, looking me directly in the eye, her expression completely serious. This is a bonus for an exceptional employee. You've earned it. I looked at the keys, and this time I didn't refuse. I desperately needed a new place to live now that the paparazzi knew where my apartment was. Thank you, Miss Frost. Call me Isabella. All right, Isabella. She smiled, satisfied. Throughout the day, my phone didn't stop buzzing. Roxy invited me to her dance studio that night, promising to teach me a sexier tango. Luna invited me to a classical music concert over the weekend, saying it would be good for the soul. And then there was Hannah, who had texted again, timidly asking if I had time to meet up this weekend. I stared at the 3 invitations on my phone, feeling a massive headache coming on. When I walked out of the office building at the end of the day, I was greeted by a familiar sight. The Bentley, the Ferrari, and was that Luna? She had come, too, parked a little way off in a modest white sedan. She saw me and gave me a shy wave. 3 cars, 3 women, all waiting for me. I stood on the sidewalk, looking at the scene that could have been mistaken for the red carpet at an awards show, and let out a deep sigh. My life, without any warning, had been launched onto some strange, super high-speed freeway, and the brakes had failed. I pulled out my phone and looked at the last message from Hannah. "Leo, I've missed you so much." I smiled to myself and typed back 2 words. "I'm coming." Then I lifted my head and, meeting the intense, gentle, and hopeful gazes of the 3 women, I started walking toward them. A quiet life? Yeah, that plan was officially a failure. But maybe, just maybe, this new life could be interesting after all.